Here we are set for another feast of cricket, another midweek doubleheader coming your way. Yes, there may be a lot of disappointed India fans who are still pulling out their calculators and putting aside their fan hats, but we'll put that aside for the moment. There are several other teams who are looking to make the semi-finals. This is, after all, a World Cup, and let's focus on everybody who's still alive and kicking. We've got two matches to go. Let's go in reverse order and tell you what the menu for the day is. For the second game, we have Pakistan taking on Namibia. Now, this is one of those unique doubleheaders, both coming from the same venue in Abu Dhabi. This is match number 31. And earlier in the afternoon, paving the way for that night fixture, will be South Africa taking on Bangladesh. Bangladesh may have sort of squandered their chances of making a semi-final, but for South Africa, it's a huge game. They know they are competing against Australia for that one possible semi-final spot behind England, or that's the way it looks right now. Stranger things have happened. But yes, no changing the fact, crucial game for South Africa, and let's look ahead to it on Cricbuzz Live. I'm in the company of Simon Doull and Joy Bhattacharjya. Good afternoon, gents. Simon, it should be quite a big day for South Africa because they know there's a semi-final spot up for grabs.
Yeah, and after everything they've been through, afternoon to you, afternoon to Joy, it's nice to be back, actually. It seems like forever. Like, I don't know, weeks ago since I've been here. But it's nice to be back. Different background as well. I've lost all the pillows in the sofa. I changed hotels. Harsha complained a lot about the last hotel, so the whole crew had to move. I don't know what was wrong. Something up with that. So we all had to move because Harsha complained. No, I'm only joking, Harsha. So yeah, nice to be back. And look, South Africa have played some good cricket. Everything that they've been through, obviously with the Quinton de Kock scenario, we've talked a lot about that. I've heard you guys talk a lot about that. So that should be put behind them now, and they're every chance to get to a semi-final, which is probably something that, I guess, when they left the South African shores and you didn't see a De Villiers and you didn't see a Faf du Plessis and you didn't see Imran Tahir, they probably thought, gosh, the semi-finals are a long, long way off. But they have a very, very realistic chance to get there. And, they've just got to take another step today, don't they, against Bangladesh?
I can tell you what, Harsha always imbibes external influences, Joy. After 2006, we heard him talk football like a genuine expert because he was one of our hosts for the 2006 Football World Cup. Don't count out the fact that he's become the polo expert overnight now, Joy.
Yeah, he's spending too much time in that part of the world. But, I just want to say that, Simon is not the same thing. He has this, the elegance of a pasha, pillows around him and a seraglio, and maybe there's a hookah in the background. It suits Simon. This is too working class for you, Simon. You're not looking your... And my only regret, when I see you virtually rather than online in face-to-face is I can't see those beautiful boots of yours. How many of them have you carried to the Gulf?
Oh my goodness! I've got one. I'm just looking around my room, Joy. 1, 2, 3, 4, five pairs of boots. But I've actually, I don't know. This is maybe a question for you, Joy, without being too rude, and GB as well. As you get older, I find the slip-ons become far easier to wear. So I've graduated more to the slip-ons, the sort of the slipper type shoes nowadays. It's I'm wearing more and more of them.
But I can tell you what, we were in Canada together, Joy, Dooley and me, and he made sure I picked up a few pairs of slip-on shoes, and they're lovely. I've carried them with me here.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think considering that you're pretty tough, normally people prefer slip-ons because it's just too much effort to tie your shoelaces. But you look fit enough. You don't have that punch. Half of India can't do it anyway. They can't reach. So.
Yeah, well, let's come back to the cricket if we can, because when we have old friends getting together, you never know where the conversation goes. Quick reminder, South Africa have won the toss and will be bowling first. They're an unchanged side, so maybe quickly look at that once again as the 11. Likes of Imran Tahir will still have to wait for a bit, but obviously they're very focused. They feel a combination that is won well is standing them in good stead. So the one big positive, and we talked about it yesterday, Dooley, was David Miller. The vintage David Miller is back.
Yeah, finding some form. I mean, they need David Miller to find form through that middle order, and their bowlers can bat a little bit. We saw that with Kagiso in the win over Sri Lanka. They can bat, but they need a firing David Miller, I think, if they're going to be a stronger side. I'm a little bit surprised, actually, that they've decided to bowl first. I know chasing has been preferred, but I think the night games, yes. In the afternoon heat, I'd always sort of think, bat first. Don't put your bowlers under that real extreme heat and pressure in the middle of the afternoon. And the surface may just tire a touch. I don't know. And it may be better for batting first and then bowling second. But hey, that's a decision. That's the way that most of these games have gone. But in particular, it's generally been the night games that have gone that way.
Well, one of the justifications from Temba Bavuma was he's seen some gross on the surface, and maybe he feels his fast bowlers have said, Temba, give us the ball.
So well, I guess maybe two games on the one surface. Maybe that's the case as well.
Yeah, and Dooley, we saw that in the Caribbean. They were playing 3 games on one surface, and hence the first of the 3, you'd see a lot of grass just to bind it together for 80 overs or more. But Bangladesh, interesting. We did a lot of a build-up to Bangladesh saying who's going to be key. One of the key players was going to be the Fizz. The Fizz is not playing today. Out goes Mustafizur Rahman. In comes Nasum Ahmed. We thought Nasum would come in, but we thought Nasum would be the like-for-like replacement for Shakib Al Hasan Joy. But they made 2 changes. Nasum comes in for the Fizz, and Shamim Hussain is the replacement for their icon, Shakib Al Hasan.
Yeah, look, Shamim, I'm glad they're doing it because, look, right now this tournament is effectively over for them. There may be some mathematical chances, but it's effectively over. I think Shakib, grade 1 also, he would have wrapped himself up and played had there still been some skin in the game. And I think what they're doing to their senior bowlers is saying, okay, you take a rest because there's not much point out here. But let the rest of them, let's give young guys a chance. If Shamim gets some runs out here, he's really a young kid. He's their most promising prospect, good finisher. Can he do something out here? And maybe you're then looking towards next year's World Cup and saying, can he sort of come into the side? Mustafizur, I don't understand. He must have, had some sort of a niggle or something because he's just, to not play him under these circumstances otherwise sounds so. They wouldn't rest him, I suspect, unless, there was a niggle. Probably not a niggle that would have been bad enough for him to, drop out had there been a game on the line, important game on the line, but not worth doing it in a match where, they don't think they're going to make it in this tournament anyway.
Well, South African boys won't be complaining, Dooley. Shakib out, Fizz out, trying to get to a semi-final. Not saying you take it for granted, but it's a relief.
No, the 2 best left armers in the team. One spin, one quick. And that's a massive thing for me. Shakib's obviously an injured one. That's tough. It's a tough blow for him, and it's a tough blow for Bangladesh. But I like what Joy was saying too about bringing some younger guys in and looking forward to next year. I said the same thing about the Sri Lankan side. It seemed 6 months ago that they were nowhere. They were in a really poor situation. They were doing it tough. They'd lost big name players. They've lost players recently, obviously going off to the American League, which is going to start next year. They've been decimated. And this young side, you don't look at this tournament and think this is the tournament for them. But next year in Australia might just be that tournament. They might just be good enough to force the issue against some good sides next year in Australia. It's, what are we talking, 12, 13 months away? And to me, building through this tournament and Das and Shanaka doing a really good job, some of these young guys coming through, that is what this tournament is all about for them. So the same for some of these Bangladesh players. We very rarely get an opportunity to go back to back in, year upon year to a T20 tournament. So you can actually say that in the next 12 months, these guys can build up to another world T20 and possibly be a lot better at the time. So bringing the young guys in, giving them that exposure, giving them those opportunities is the right thing to do at this time.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar conversation, Joy, we had about Sri Lanka. Michael Vaughan mentioned that yesterday on the show. They're looking good. They've played some good cricket, but just a little bit more polishing needed for another 12 months. And they, just like Dooley said, they'll be in a similar position to a team like Bangladesh. Quick look at the points table to see why this game is so important for South Africa in particular. Sitting pretty, but not pretty enough until you turn 4 into 6. So once they've got the 6 points on the board with a match to play, Australia are not playing South Africa. They're not playing each other. So they know they have to win their respective match as well. So crucial, Joy, for these 2 points for South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if they can manage their destinies in their own hands, it's going to be a run rate chase. If both of them keep delivering on their promises, it's going to be a run rate chase. And that's not something I think South Africa was looking at when they started this tournament, the way they started this tournament. And now suddenly, that happened, then Decock happened, everything seemed to be going wrong. Suddenly they win a game. Miller shows a little bit of form and, a whole lot of things. So that's exactly the point. The beauty of tournaments like the World Cup is that things change very fast on other results as well. And the way England beat Australia has opened a pretty big door for South Africa, because now Australia just doesn't have to win. They have to win really convincingly to try and overlap the run rate, so overtake the run rate. So I think if you're looking at South Africa now, this is a chance. And I think it's more than a chance about on the cricket field. It's more than that. They get a good result out here. I just take you back to 1995 and that Rugby World Cup win. And if you remember, those were not great days in South Africa, and that's really binded it together. Things again, this is a crucial time in South African history. Perhaps this could be more than just a game for them, or more than just a tournament.
Yeah, we remember that well. Even if you're not rugby fans, it's just that image of Nelson Mandela lifting that trophy there is an iconic image, and certainly you want to get back to days like that. But two things, Simon. One is, of course, South Africa's last matches against England.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that victory against Sri Lanka the other day, the 2 sixes from Miller, the finish from Rabada, just coming out of a game that was pretty much Sri Lanka's in the last 30 minutes, would give them even more of confidence.
Yeah, I think that will galvanise this team a lot. The way that they finished it off, the way that David Miller, we all know David Miller. We've all seen him and met him, and he is the nicest guy in the world. I mean, he will get one of those tags along with Rahul Dravid as just the nicest man. He's always got a smile on his face. He's always first one to say hello, how you going? Ask about your family, all those things. He's just a genuinely good bloke. And when he's doing well, that sort of has an effect on the team. I think it rubs off on some of the other players in and around the team. So the enjoyment that they will have got out of that, plus what Rabada did with the bat, will just give them that little bit more confidence going into this game today. And as Joy said, it comes down to, you've got to take game by game. So first and foremost, they have to deal with Bangladesh. They have to deal with this game today. They can't be looking to the 6th of November, I think it is, when they play England. They can't be looking that far ahead and saying, if we win today and then we get even if we just lose to England, they cannot be thinking like that at all. Get rid of Bangladesh, then we will deal with what comes after that. And that's the only way you think that they'll be looking at it. But I do agree that they will have taken a lot of confidence, and that dressing room, that bus ride back to their hotel, training the next day will have just had a little bit more joviality about it. It'll just be a little bit more, shoulders will be, just down a little bit and relaxed a little bit more rather than walking around a little bit tense. So, yeah, big game for them today, and it's a real opportunity to make a semi-final. If they win comfortably today, they are pretty much, bang on for that semi.
Certainly are. We did mention West Indies as an outside contender, but lots will have to happen for them to try and push South Africa / Australia there. But just focusing on the South African bowling, Joy, I'll come to you and then Simon after that. This is an opportunity for them. Maybe they got in Temba Bavuma's year as well, having seen a bit of that grass. But really, they're a well-oiled unit. Perhaps Kagiso Rabada is the one who wants to deliver a little more, but Nokia has been doing what he's been doing, be it franchise cricket or for South Africa.
Absolutely. I think Nokia is, and it's interesting, the fact that, when you have two really good bowlers, it rarely happens that they're both going to be in exactly the same kind of form. It's almost impossible. But right now, Nokia is the one who's in form. But Rabada is just such a good bowler, and he has so many variations, so much with the game. There's just a matter of time. See, the other thing is that they really haven't had that situation. One of the things that Rabada does well is that if there is run rate pressure, he almost always takes wickets towards the end, because he knows how to get batsmen out at that time, knows how to force them to take more risks than they can. And they haven't had too many such situations right now where they've been chasing and, he's had to bowl under those circumstances. So I think Rabada will come good for them. He's just too classy a bowler. But it's Nokia's emergence that has allowed them to be slightly more relaxed about Rabada. He's not bowling the way he is. I think Pretorius has also now given them enough, and he's just given them a little bit more. Look at those figures out there. I mean, economy of 7.36 is something you'll be absolutely delighted. And these are in these conditions, because he's been playing here for the Delhi Capitals for a month and a half. He's been playing with Rabada for a month and a half, 2 months. So, yeah, they're ready.
Is there something, Dooley, that you've spotted in Kagiso Rabada that maybe he's not reached the high standards? Because if you think of Rabada and you want to remember a moment from this tournament, it's probably his 6 that he hit, not something with the ball.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And it'll be something he's just working through, I'm sure. With his action, his particular action, it almost looks like he bowls off the wrong foot. It's not quite. He's got a really late release, releases the ball almost as late as him and Jasprit Bumrah, the two latest releases of all the quick bowlers worldwide. So it might just be a little sink issue with him. What we haven't seen from Rabada, and we didn't see through the Premier League as well, was the searing Yorkers. I mean, if I think Rabada in the last 2-3 years, I think the Andre Russell Yorker. I mean, it's kind of the first thing that springs to mind. And I think so many people would remember that. So to me, we just haven't quite seen that. And we didn't see that through the Premier League as well. And so there's just a little bit of something missing. I don't think it's fatigue. He hasn't played an enormous amount of cricket. There'll just be a little click that he needs to find. And the bowling coach just needs to work out with him. He's still got all the skills. You don't become a bad bowler overnight. They're all still there. And, you know, it really should be a time with Nortje, with Rabada, with Ngidi, if around, you know, Pretorius. This should be a time where South African cricket is actually going quite well. They've got a very, very good bowling attack. You throw Maharaj in there, you throw Shamsi in there, whether it be 50 over or 2020 cricket. You know, they've got a good bowling attack. They just, if they can get the runs and Rabada can just find that little click that's missing, they're very, very dangerous.
I know, Joy, you mentioned Pretorius briefly. It's not often we talk about someone who's been an impact bowler, and yet he's used very sparingly at a very specific time of the innings. And that's exactly what they've done with him in this tournament. And yet he's delivered. I mean, an out-and-out death bowler who doesn't bowl anywhere else.
Look, I mean, what do you expect? He's an accountant. He's bound to be frugal. He's bound to be miserly. He's trained as an accountant. You know, I just look at Pretorius and I just think about it. Same tournament, okay? You have Kane Williamson, you have Virat Kohli, and you have Pretorius coming to play for South Africa, tears the ligament just before that, cannot come, decides cricket is not his calling, goes away, studies, becomes an accountant, and 4 or 5 years later says, you know what, I'd like to play cricket. And all those guys that he played with, Virat Kohli, Kane Williamson, these guys are now superstars, Ravindra Jadeja, and he comes back there and he's playing in this tournament in 2021. So it's an incredible journey in the way he's done it. And I think he's done it the way he's done it for South Africa is by knowing that now with those injuries, he cannot be that 140 bowler anymore. So he's that 132, 133 bowler, but a little bit of late swing, little bit of cutters, and he's playing a very important role for South Africa because, you know, Nortje is not often not the best bowler towards the death. So Pretorius coming in and taking that pressure off them, saying that, okay, Nortje doesn't need to bowl those towards the death is possibly huge for South Africa because that's his weakness. If Nortje has a weakness in this game, that's it.
Not something we've seen often, Dooley. If you look at Pretorius and you try and replicate him in different teams, it's not someone you genuinely see. Maybe Tymal Mills just bowling purely at the death, but he does bowl at other times as well.
Yeah, and I like it though. I mean, you know, why have we not seen more of these type of guys who are just purely death bowlers? The way that MS Dhoni uses Bravo, purely after the 10th, 11th, 12th over. So why in this modern age are we not seeing more of this? Just purely and simply bowl 2 to 3 overs at the death, but do it well, do it brilliantly. You get another guy that bowls 150 clicks. He can bowl 2 up front. And I'm talking about Nortje. I like the fact that he can bowl at least 2 up front if he's going really well 3. And then if he's bowled 2, come back for 1 around about the 9th or 10th and maybe bowl 1 about the 14th or 15th. Or you save him for that guy that doesn't like the short ball or the quick ball. So you have those options as a skipper. And then you have Pretorius just waiting in the wings. Ideally, you're not really asking. You don't want to ask any bowler to bowl 3 overs at the death. I mean, bowling 16, 18, 20 is really tough because the batsman at some stage will get a bit of a line on what you're doing. So it won't always be successful, but 2 at the back end, if you can go at under 10, you know, have an economy of 8, 9, 9.5 in the last 2 overs of every game, you are doing your job if you're picking up 1 and 2 wickets all the time. And it's also the best time to pick up wickets. And that's one of the reasons why DJ Bravo has been so successful as one of the leading wicket takers time and time again, is because he bowls so many overs at the death. So yes, you have an opportunity to go for runs, but you also have an opportunity because everyone's swiping at it to pick up wickets.
Yeah, whether it's a cheap wicket or not, it's still a wicket and it still halts your progress to get those big 4s and 6s towards the end. But Bangladesh, whatever might be their possibility of getting to a semi or not, will be wanting to put some sort of a performance on the board for themselves, for their fans. And something about batting intent, Joy, we've talked a lot about it, discussed it threadbare. Of course, we were referring to Team India, but when it comes to even other teams in the tournament, Afghanistan have shown intent, England have shown intent. Time for Bangladesh, maybe, a team who have done it in the past, to also show a bit of intent with bat.
I agree with you. I mean, their batsmen are too good, and there's no longer that tag saying you're not experienced enough. Okay, it's no longer, at one time you say they're not experienced, or they don't play 140 plus bowlers. None of that is true anymore. They face as good, they have 140 plus bowlers in their own country now, and it's none of that is true now. They just need to break out. I think Bangladesh has a very problem very similar to India, that cricket is perhaps a big game. It's the only game. Therefore, the pressure on the stars is far more in big tournaments. You could literally see the Indian players staggering under that pressure in this tournament. And then you lose one game against Pakistan, and then the pressure becomes almost unbearable. And I think a lot of that is what happens to Bangladesh, and because its fans are again completely rabid fans. And therefore, I think today, with this as it is now, perhaps today they'll play some freer cricket. But they were also playing as if they had the weight of the world on their shoulders. And that's not the way. No team can consistently win, or no team can win T20 games if you don't play cricket, if you play timid cricket. And I think Bangladesh was just like India playing timid cricket.
Unlike what they did at home against Australia, which is what I think everyone will be pointing to. I mean, never mind you're playing at home. Australia, they made short work of them. Quick quote from Habibul Bashar before I bring Simon in. And I think this puts it in context. Somebody who's been a former captain, been a selector. I think in our next domestic T20 tournament, we should have better batting wickets where the scores can be around 180 to 200 consistently. We play in the same wickets repeatedly in tournaments like the BPL. This prevents better batting in power plays and building power hitters down the order. So I think he's also trying to suggest that while India talked about building fast bowlers maybe 10 years ago, in this format, it's also important to be able to let your batters express themselves.
Yeah, what it also does, guys, is it actually makes your spin bowlers become a little bit more accountable, and it improves them as well, because they can't continue to play on these slow turning. You saw that series against New Zealand, when even the New Zealand spinners, were just turning it square. I mean, part-time spinners were turning it square, and it was very, very difficult to score 100 runs. So what it does, if you play on better surfaces, your spinners actually have to learn to bowl better as well. They can't just fire it in, turn it square, and have guys, stumped, hitting the ball up in the air, all of those things. So it has a double, it's a bit of a double-edged thing, because the batsmen improve, they get better, they learn how to play, better on better surfaces. The spin bowlers improve. It allows the quick bowlers to actually have something to use, maybe if there's a little bit of pace and a little bit of bounce on the surface as well. And in turn, you can't all go that way. I don't believe that they should, all of their pitches should be of that style, but you can't have all of them just being low, slow turners that are just not good to play on, because your batsmen will never prosper. And when they go to a good pitch, they just don't know how to play on it and don't know how to score on it. And when the spin bowlers get to a pitch that's not turning square, then that's not working for them either. I think it's no surprise to me that why Shakib has been, the best spinner for Bangladesh by a stretch, because he plies his trade around the world. He plays in different venues. He's able to float it up. He's able to slide it in. He's able to, just be a very wily campaigner when it comes to, because of all the cricket he's played on different surfaces in different leagues around the world. Whereas a lot of the Bangladesh players that only play in Bangladesh or in the BPL, particularly their 2020 stuff, then they just can be found wanting a little bit when they travel.
Well, the spinners will have a little bit of work to do a little later on in the piece. They will, of course, be without Shakib Al Hasan. But Shakib missing that batting order, Joy, so that iconic number 3 position is now up for grabs. Let's put up the Bangladesh 11 again. What is your ideal batting order minus Shakib Al Hasan? Now, you happy seeing Shomo Sharkar 9 going and then Litton taking Shakib's place?
I mean, I actually, to be honest with you, I don't mind this order. I just feel that they have to. I think Shamim, if you're going to play Shamim, he's going to play late. He's going to bat at that 6 or 7 spot. I think Mahmudullah should float depending on what the situation is, because very often I feel he doesn't give himself enough balls. And if these guys get out early, I mean, then he can stay at 5. But otherwise, even if the batsman up front reach the 13th, 14th over, I think Mahmudullah should go in even before Mushfiq could. I think he's he's somebody who can force the pace better. But look, I think the problem is not with their batting order. I think the problem is how they're playing the game right now. And unless they turn around and say that, we are going to try and get a 160, 180, we are going to play that kind of cricket. Because it's not a batting order that's very short as well. If you take Shamim in our 5th, it goes to 7, 8, and the rest of them can swing their bat a bit. So it's not as if they are very, very short in batting. They should just...
Apart from Mushfiqur, he's really short.
Mushfiqur, but he hits a long ball. I know.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of the impact, yes, Dooley, that's something they'll want to do, whatever their batting order is. And life without Shakib. First time since 2006, they're playing an ICC tournament or an ICC match without Shakib in the starting lineup.
Yeah, look, it's going to be tough for them. I'm with Joy, though. I think when you look at their batting order, what do you want against South Africa? Yes, they've got some quality spin in Shamsi and Maharaj, but you want guys who can play the quick bowling as well. So who are the best two players of quick bowling? I know he's got chocolate fingers, Mushfiqur, but I know they break for a living, don't they? But he's still a decent player of short pitch bowling and quick bowling. And Mahmudullah is the other one, to me, who plays the quicker bowling as well as anyone on that side. So they just... To me, I think they just got to bat 3 and 4 and be done with it. Yeah, okay, stick with the opening combination. Liton Das has not had a great tournament, particularly with his catching. So I'd just like to see their better players of the quick bowling bat at 3 and 4, and they are Mushfiqur and Mahmudullah to me. So then save a little bit of that power for the back end. Make Liton Das perhaps just go out there with 4 or 5 overs to spare and play some shots. Which he is more than capable of doing as well. So that would be the way I would like to see them go. Again, that batting order we've got that from the game itself. So that looks like what they have sent out to the toss, and that's probably what they'll do. But I just think that your better players have got to get to that 3 and 4 region, particularly when you're not going so well and your team is struggling a touch.
Well, grass on the surface in Abu Dhabi, but is there grass on the surface when it comes to our quizzing surface? We had a decent stumping type of question yesterday. I hope no half volleys today, Joy.
But today's a half volley. It's a rank half volley because you should get this one. It's really, I mean, it's a list. Which Indian cricketer in a first-class career of over 2 decades plays for the following domestic teams? And the first team gives you a hint. Navanagar, Bengal, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Mumbai. I mean, if there were IPL franchises around in his time, he would have probably played for all 8 franchises. This guy was the original cricketer for hire. Who's this cricketer? That's all. Easy one.
Fair enough. Remember, all of you regulars out there, if you've answered more than X number of questions, you will be given an honorable mention, and we'll have the next person as our winner. So let's see if we can get a new winner today. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Get your answers back to us. We need to try and get a prediction in for how much Bangladesh are going to set South Africa in their quest for a semi-final spot. Quick reminder, Temba Bavuma has won the toss. He's asked the opposition to bat. Simon Doull, how much are Bangladesh going to score?
Goodness me, 146.
146. Interesting. And that's probably a decent total. They'd be happy to get to that. Joy, are you lowballing that one?
So my sense is that they're going to go for it, and perhaps it may not come off. So I'm going to go at 137.
137. That's kind of where I was wanting to go. I can't go any lower than that, can I? Or maybe I can. Maybe I can. Rabada, Nokia, Maharaj opening the bowling, bit of Shamsi magic. Fine, I'll go lower. I'll go for 125 and see what happens. I'll go for 125 and see what happens.
No faith. No faith in Bangladesh at all.
Are you going to work in the Bangladesh Premier League again? Wait a minute. Guys, should I just let them know what you think? I mean,
they're all watching. They're all watching. They're all watching. I'm coming to the BPL, guys. I'm coming to the BPL, guys. This is only fun and games. Yeah. Oh, I was. Okay, then. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. My passport is lying just over there. I've got to check when my visa expires. I better check that. If I'd said 180, would you let me in anyway? Well, yes. Let me just say, my heart says 180, my head says 125. We'll figure out what's 60 runs between friends. That's all it is.
How does the fence feel when you're sitting on it? What?
It is. Never mind that. We'll see what happens. It's South Africa looking for that semi-final spot. Fielding first. Keshav Maharaj thrown in with the first. We haven't seen that happen so far before. It's all been Nokia, Rabada, little quick stuff up front. But they're trying a different tactic against Bangladesh, who are, by the way, are playing in their away kits for a change. Good to see a different look for a team.
Just for the record, Liton Das opening the batting.
Absolutely.
Fair point. There you go. We didn't get the batting order right because they're not supposed to. They're not committed to that. Anyone can walk in if they want to. We'll wish some runs on Liton Das for now. That's all from Simon Doull, Joy Bhattacharya and myself. We'll see you in the 10th over as Bangladesh continue their quest to put runs on the board. That's all here on Cricbuzz Live.